You keep saying you want a new life, but every time life makes you uncomfortable, you return to the same version of yourself. The version that procrastinates when it is time to be seen. The version that overthinks when it is time to decide. The version that gives up after failure, breaks promises to itself, or runs back to what feels familiar. And you wonder why your future still looks so much like your past, bro. But here's what you may be missing. That old version of you is not necessarily weak or lazy or trying to destroy your life. That version may have been created to protect you from rejection, disappointment, failure, or pain. But what protected you in one season can imprison you in the next. You do not have to hate the person you used to be. You do not even have to wait until that version completely disappears. But you do have to stop allowing that version to make every decision about your future. This video, I want to help you identify the old identity you keep returning to, understand what it has been protecting you from, and make one new decision that begins proving that you are no longer controlled by it. Because the old you may have gotten you here, but the new you has to take you forward. Now, there is a reason the old version of you was created. I'm going to help you understand why it was. The old version is usually created during a painful, powerless season. It learned how to keep you emotionally safe, bro. Procrastination may have protected you from being judged, from feeling any future pain, from feeling like a failure, from feeling like a loser, whatever thing you never want to feel again. If you struggled with perfectionism, it may have protected you from criticism. If you've played small, it may have protected you from visibility. A lot of people are afraid to be seen. Quitting early may have protected you from giving everything and still failing. Overworking may have protected you from feeling worthless or behind. Because if you overwork, you probably find your value only in work, and you think that's the only way that you're valuable. It's a lie, bro. If you people please, that could have been protected you from rejection or abandonment. That's why you're always trying to please the next person. In all reality, your inner child, the kid within you, is just always trying to please their parents. Because if you try to please other people, 9 out of 10 times, I bet you wish you would have pleased your parents, or maybe you feel like you're a disappointment to your parents. And that's why you have this need to please, so to speak. But there's an important distinction, bro. With all of these patterns or all of these struggles, they are not proof that something is fundamentally wrong with you. They all just helped you to survive. At one point, the behavior may have served a purpose. It usually does. The problem is that your nervous system or identity may still be responding to the present as though old threats still exist. Like when you get cheated on and you project that to the next relationship, you think every girl out there is going to cheat on you. But it's just old wounding. It's just your mind on repeat from the past, from what happened. It's emotions on repeat, really, because you don't want to get hurt. And at the end of the day, all of these things that your old version is doing is so you don't get hurt, is so you stay safe, but it is so detrimental to the future you're trying to build. And if you keep playing that way by the rules of your old self, you're going to lose. And you're never going to get to where you want to go. I want you to know this. Understanding the pattern is not the same as excusing it. You have to be aware of why these patterns exist. Compassion helps you see the pattern clearly. You don't have to do what your parents did to you and harshly criticize yourself or call yourself an idiot. You don't have to repeat that conditioning. Have compassion for what you're healing through, bro. Because changing and healing are not easy. And responsibility is actually what helps you stop repeating the patterns. You know, bro, there was a time when I felt so trapped as a kid and I felt powerless. Felt like I had no control over my life. And it's crazy. I'm 33 now and I still feel that anger of little Roy, because my parents would go out and work and I would be left with babysitters, and it would be a new babysitter every month. And I remember crying and begging and pleading for my parents to have more time with me, right? For things to change. But I didn't always have the power to change the situation. So there was a belief that developed within me that I was powerless, that I didn't have control over what I wanted, that I couldn't do what I wanted in life. And that's probably another reason why I struggled with alcohol addiction, because it made me feel in control. I remember talking to my therapist at the time when I was going through this, and she asked me, how do I feel when I drink? And I told her, I feel powerful. I feel in control. Nothing matters. I feel free. And it's also an escape, right? There's many components to why addiction develops, but a big one was feeling powerful, because as a child I felt powerless. I remember I wanted my cousin to sleep over one time so bad, and I was kicking and screaming, and her dad didn't want her to sleep over, and that was my best cousin. And I remember being so angry. And those moments were when these beliefs started to develop that I couldn't do what I wanted. I couldn't have what I wanted. I was powerless. But it's just the perception of a kid, you know? Again, as my younger self, I internalized these situations. My parents working too much and me just being alone a lot and being by myself a lot. That I internalized those as thoughts like, I don't have control. Nothing I do changes anything. I have to wait for somebody else to make things better. My needs don't matter. And because these thoughts turned into beliefs, they affected me heavily growing up. I was looking to be saved. I was a hard people pleaser. I gave up so easily when things got hard. I would play the victim. And that's the thing about victimhood too. You don't get far. You always blame people. You hate the universe or you blame the world as to why you don't have what you want. It's really childish. But this is how victimhood develops. And people pleasing develops. And this is why there are adults right now that still act like kids. Because if you don't heal this, if you don't go into this, they stay. And these beliefs run your life. Just like puppets on strings, bro. They're pulling you left and right. And you think you don't have control over your life. And you're just a ship with no rudder. And I remember when I first became aware of all this, I was like, I'll be fucking damned if I'm a puppet on strings, if I'm a ship with no rudder. It helped me wake up that I could and I will control my life. And I started to direct it. I started to create it rather than just be a victim to life, rather than just let everything that happened to me be the reason why I wasn't going to be successful, why I was a failure, why everybody mattered except myself. Chose to not let my past define my future. I also wanted to share this baby elephant metaphor. You might have heard this before. You know how you see the big ass elephant and all they have is a little stick in the ground and they don't move. There's a rope tied to their leg and then there's a stick in the ground, and these full grown elephants stay. They stay where they're at. They don't even try to tug. They don't even try to pull at all. And it's just a little stick. They would rip that shit right off if they actually try. But what a lot of people don't know is that they were conditioned since they were little baby elephants. How the circus trains these elephants is by tying them when they're young to a stake. And the baby elephant pulls and pulls and tries to escape, but it can't. It pulls, it fights, and eventually learns that escaping is impossible. And I mean, these baby elephants try, bro. Like, they gave it everything to try to escape. And as the elephant becomes fully grown, it possesses more than enough strength to pull the stake out of the ground, right? But it no longer tries because it still believes the limitation it learned when it was small. And how many people live like the grown elephant? You know, for how many years I lived like that? Because see, the circumstances change, bro. Maybe you can relate this to your own life. I bet you your circumstances have changed. I bet you your strength has increased. I bet you your options have expanded, but your decisions are still being made from an identity created when you felt powerless. Old belief may explain why you respond this way, but it cannot be allowed to keep choosing your future. The next thing I wanted to go into is what protected you then may be costing you now. Look, bro, the old version is not evil, but it may no longer be qualified to lead. The version built for survival doesn't always know how to build freedom. The version built to avoid rejection will struggle to create visibility. The version built to please everyone will struggle to set boundaries. The version built to prove its worth will eventually work itself into exhaustion. And I'm telling you from lived experience, I've been there with all of these. And that's why if you're trying to build something, if you're an entrepreneur or you want to be an entrepreneur, if you're trying to grow a business and you struggle with all this stuff, you're going to keep hiding instead of hitting fucking publish, right? All these things are going to be in the background affecting you. And you're going to think it's this or that, but it's just really the old you. I remember having a coaching session with a client and we were doing my truth process, and he thought he was a procrastinator. And I'm like, brother, I see how you work. I see you do your thing. I don't think you're procrastinating. I don't think you're lazy. He thought he was lazy as well. And as I walked him through this exercise, you know what was the truth? You know what was the deep, deep fear underneath him procrastinating? Because he would procrastinate, but he still did a lot of work. He was afraid to fail. So he would procrastinate. Procrastination is protection. And I challenged his belief throughout the call. And he realized that's just what it was. He was afraid to fail. So his protective mechanism was procrastination. And as we went deeper into all this, he also realized that he thought he wasn't ready for the next level. And again, as I took him through my truth process, he realized he was more than fucking ready. He was just signing himself off because of these beliefs, because of these past limitations. his own conditioning. But when he really got to see the truth and acknowledge what he's actually fucking done, he saw he was more than ready. And this is what I mean about the new you. That was the real him. That version of you that knows it can do anything, that believes in itself, that has trust in the purpose that they've been given. That's the part of you that has to lead, because the old you will keep you exactly where you're at. It will keep you stagnant. It will keep you in habits that slowly destroy you and slowly kill your dream, that never let you build the business you know in your heart you can. The old you is the part that makes you give up. I'll share some more examples as to how we unconsciously protect ourselves. Let's say you want confidence, but you repeatedly break promises to yourself. How are you going to get the confidence that you're looking for when you keep showing yourself that you don't have it? When you keep breaking your own trust? It's a never-ending cycle, bro. That's costing you. Or if you want peace, but you feel guilty whenever you rest, how does that work? Also, if you're in a phase of looking for a relationship, you say you want a different relationship, but you continue accepting the same kind of treatment from the past one that's less than what you deserve. I see this again and again. Why do you tolerate that? Why do you have such a low standard of love, of what a relationship should be? The right partner, they'll challenge you in the best ways. They'll help you grow. They'll help you heal. They'll build with you. They'll grow with you. But if you have somebody that's toxic, if you stay with somebody that blatantly and constantly disrespects you and maybe even cheats on you, what do you expect your future with them is going to look like, bro? If you want a new opportunity, but you keep reacting to it through memories of the last opportunity that failed, that's going to cost you too. Or if you say you want change while continuing to protect the behavior, keeping your current identity alive, that's going to come with a price. Stop fighting for your own limitations. Let yourself grow. You know what the fuck you got to do. You know what habits have to go. You know what people have to go. You know what's going to move you forward, what's going to move you backward. I know exactly, I've said this in other videos, but I know exactly what I have to do to fuck myself up, to make sure I regress. And I know exactly what I have to do to move forward, achieve my dream. You have to come to the point where there is more pain associated with you staying the same than you growing. When I was 22 and I was drinking half a bottle of Bombay every other day, and I went to sleep drunk that night, and I asked myself if this was going to be the rest of my life. You know how much pain was attached to the question? I felt like a complete loser, bro. I felt like nothing. And that's why I said no, that this wasn't going to be the rest of my life, because I refused to go out that way. I refused to let me do me like that. You have to refuse to let the old you do you like that. And I love what Eric Thomas says. You have to get to the point where the new you is more developed than the past version of yourself. Outlast the past you, so to speak. Because once you get to that point, the older version is weaker and the new version is stronger. And you have new habits, new actions, new ideologies about your life, about what's possible, about where you want to go. The new you is the way. The old you is blocking the fucking way. And in all honesty, you can't ask your future to change while protecting every decision from your past. The reason it keeps coming back is because you haven't done the inner work. You haven't confronted yourself. You haven't felt that pain. You haven't went through the healing process of what happened. There was a point where I felt so alone, and there's still bits and pieces of that, but I've gone into it so much that this was an emotion that I would run from, and I never wanted to feel that loneliness as a child, because I was alone a lot, and it's a weird sadness, right? And I remember the first time I went into it, I broke down, I cried. I was actually working with medicine called ayahuasca, and I was like rocking back and forth, and I remember just tearing up because that loneliness hurt so much, because little Roy wanted his mom, wanted his dad, but didn't really have that growing up. There was a reason for it, right? It wasn't like they were bad parents, but that loneliness was there, and underneath the loneliness is deep, deep sadness. And that's what I mean, bro. I felt that shit, and that's why I cried, and I had a huge, huge emotional release. And that's what I mean about confronting yourself. And sometimes you need help with that. Sometimes, like a lot of my clients, when they come to me, I always say, I feel like I'm a breaking case of emergency, because they don't know where else to turn to. They don't know how to heal this pain. They don't know how to go into it. And that's where I come in. But you got to find a way to heal what's happened, whether, again, it's with a relationship, whether it's childhood trauma, whether it's limiting beliefs that are just destroying you. If you have low self-worth, you're not going to achieve much in life until you go into that and change that and challenge that. Because on the flip side, there's a version and a part of you that has a high sense of self-worth. And that's what we're trying to get to. But you got to walk the bridge to get to that point. You can't just jump. Another thing I wanted to share is a new strategy can't compensate for an old identity that refuses to use it. Sorry, bro. Try all the new strategies in the world. Keep going back to who you used to be. It's going to fuck it up. Also, a new opportunity can't help someone who treats every opportunity like a threat. You got to take the risk, high reward. You can't make a decision based off what happened. We've all lost. We've all gambled and lost, bro. But that cannot be the reason why you don't take another risk. If you do take that leap, if you do take the risk, at least you stand a fucking chance at winning. Also, motivation can't save someone who continuously returns to the same response under pressure. So I love that quote by David Goggins. When the ending is unknown and the distance is unknown, that's when you find out who the fuck you are. Thrive in pressure. Make a belief that you'll figure it out, that you'll find a way. Because if you believe that, when those moments come, when the pressure comes, when you get punched in the mouth, like Mike Tyson says, figure it out. There's a certain level of belief that you have to have within yourself for that. And there has to be an actual belief that you can. Now, I want to help you reframe how you see failure, because failure doesn't mean an attempt was wasted. And oftentimes it's what we think. It was a wasted effort, and it is not at all. Every genuine attempt can reveal what still needs to change. That's all you're doing, bro. You're course correcting, you're pivoting, you're changing the strategy if you have to. You're realizing what needs to change. This didn't work. Okay, well, what can I change to improve it? What can I change to make it better? And that's it. When failure happens, all you're doing is seeing what needs to change. And I suggest that you fail fast so you can find out fast what needs to change. And even when a result doesn't arrive, the attempt can still build skill, resilience, information, and self-awareness. Napoleon Hill says, behind every adversity, there's an equal to a greater opportunity. And sometimes the result may be delayed, bro, but the person you want to become is still being developed. It's a good thing. If you see it as, you know what, I learned something valuable here. This is developing me in a positive way. It can only be a win, because even if it does take a longer time, the fucking timeline doesn't invalidate the transformation. It's still happening, bro. You're still evolving, you're still growing, you're still showing up. At least you're trying. Because if you have that consistency to build, to go after that dream, build that business, growth is inevitable. Reaching your next level is inevitable. But if you stop, you for sure won't get it. And here's the way that I like to look at change or even healing yourself. It's not about destroying or hating who you were. The old version deserves acknowledgement for surviving what is survived. And again, you were just protecting yourself from pain, from quote unquote negative emotions that you felt that you didn't want to go into. And that's okay. I've been there. We've all been there, and I get it. I need you to appreciate the old you and be grateful for the lessons that it gave you. Be grateful that it got you this far. It served for the time being. And just because you're grateful or you show it appreciation, it doesn't mean that you're surrendering leadership to it. But it just wants to be acknowledged. It just wants to be heard. It just wants to be felt. You can say, thank you for protecting me. I understand why you were afraid, but you don't get to make this decision. True self, the savage in you, that's still the part that leads. And you're allowed to appreciate the version of you that survived and still refuse to let that version choose your future, bro. Just so you know, the new identity is not created by announcing that you have changed. It's created when the old trigger appears and you choose a different response. That's how you know shit's changing. And I just have some final words for you. The old version of you isn't your enemy, bro. That version was created from experiences, fears, disappointments, and moments when you may not have possessed the power or understanding that you have today. It helped you survive, but surviving the past and building the future required two different versions of you. You can't continue asking for a new life while allowing an identity built from old pain to make every decision. So identify the trigger, notice the old response, make a new choice, then acknowledge that choice as evidence that you are already becoming someone different. Don't wait until you feel completely confident. Don't wait until the fear disappears. Do not wait until you feel like an entirely new person. Make one decision within the next 24 hours that the old version of you would normally avoid. And if you're tired of feeling stuck, playing small, feeling behind, always falling short, maybe questioning what is possible for your life, download my free audio training, Limitless. Inside, you'll learn how to break through your self-imposed limitations, expand your vision, and step into the version of yourself capable of building the business, life, and future you truly want. You can download Limitless through the link in the description and subscribe to the channel and walk this journey with me, bro. I'm still learning how to release the versions of myself that no longer belong in the future I'm building. I'm still healing, growing, and I'm still becoming the person my dream requires me to be. The old you got you here, but the new you has to take you forward. Give up what is no longer serving you. Choose the person you are becoming. And no matter what, do not give up on yourself.